After my wife's passing, a life-changing inheritance meeting revealed my daughter-in-law's hidden strengths and my own failures as a father. Tom's heart pounded loudly in his chest as he stepped from his old pickup truck and onto the familiar soil of Maplewood. The air was rich with the scent of pine, battling the pungent aroma of unease that clung to his skin after losing Mary. For years, she had been the heart of their family, the sunlight that pushed away the shadows. Now, the quiet was deafening, a constant reminder of her absence. He reached inside his jacket pocket for the small, folded letter detailing today's meeting, but his fingers trembled. It was about Mary's father's estate, an inheritance that had stirred painful memories along with faint hints of hope. He had never wanted such discussions about money, especially now, when loss was his constant companion. As he approached the old family home, the whispers of relatives began to swirl like a brisk autumn wind, carrying with them heavy judgment and anticipation. Inside, everyone was there, cousins, aunts, old family friends. And there, sitting quietly in the back, was Sarah, his daughter-in-law, the perennial outsider. She had always been the black sheep, making choices that raised eyebrows and muttered disapproval. Tom felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Was this inheritance really a blessing or a burden that might split them apart? As the meeting began, Tom listened to voices murmur and fade, the discussions about property values blending into a fog of anxiety. The moment they shared the details, his heart sank. Sarah was slated to inherit a sizable portion. The room grew tense. Caution and disbelief filled the air. Tom noticed whispers, glances exchanged like quick daggers. Voices grew louder, and then a woman across the table crossed her arms, raising her chin in contempt. Does Sarah really deserve this? She scoffed, echoing a sentiment that crackled like overcooked popcorn in the room. Tom felt torn, heart pounding as he calculated the danger of his silence. Should he protect Sarah or uphold the family's legacy built on hard work? Just as the emotions reached a boiling point, a forgotten story surfaced how Sarah had been there for Mary through those long, grueling months when illness made even breathing a battle. How, despite the fierce winds of judgment, Sarah had held the family together, making calls, picking up groceries, and keeping their spirits afloat. It hit Tom like a swift gust. He hadn't acknowledged her sacrifices, hadn't seen the resilience she wore like armor. The truth struck him as he grappled with shame, feeling the sting of how easily he had fallen into the family's judgment. Suddenly, the dynamics shifted. Tom realized that family wasn't just about blood, but also about who stood by you when life got painful. Then, just as hope flickered to life, a loud bang echoed against the old walls, a chair scraping back, anger rising like smoke. A family member yelled, emotions bursting forth, threatening to tear the fragile peace apart. Tom felt the walls of understanding he had begun to build shatter. He now faced a crucial decision that could change everything: a choice between judgment or compassion, between division or unity. Could he pull together this fractured family before it crumbled? The weight of uncertainty bore down on him. Where would they go from here? Tom inhaled deeply, trying to steady himself as the argument escalated. The air grew thick with tension, like the impending storm clouds hanging low in the sky. He realized this could be the turning point, the moment when everything unraveled or when they came together. "I think it's awful," a cousin shouted, her voice sharp like a knife cutting through the chaos. "Sarah doesn't deserve this." Tom could feel his pulse quicken. The unfairness rolled over him like a wave, and something within him snapped. He glanced at Sarah, her face pale, eyes wide with shock. He wanted to shield her, to scream that she had fought with every ounce of her being to keep their family together. But how could he articulate the truth when voices clashed around him? Against the cacophony, he finally stood. The sounds softened a collective pause as the room focused on him. Enough. He raised his voice, a reluctant authority pulling him up. "This isn't about who deserves what. It's about Mary." Murmurs filled the air, disbelief washing over many faces. Mary fought so hard in those last months, and Sarah was there every step of the way. He continued, feeling the weight of every word. She deserves this, and we shouldn't turn against each other because of our anger and pain. The swelling emotions paused, uncertainty hanging like a fragile thread. A few people fidgeted, eyes flickering to Sarah, whose expression had shifted from shock to something resembling gratitude, bolstered by his defense. Yet, just as hope began to flicker in the air, the discontented cousin spoke again, her voice drenched in bitterness. But she is not family. Not really. Tom winced at that stinging assessment. Anger boiled just under his skin. Who decided who was family? Wasn't he family defined by those who stayed and fought alongside you? Family, he insisted, is more than blood. It's those who endure the storms with you. Sarah supported us when we needed it most. She has shared our losses and held our memories. So let's not forget who we are. As he spoke, he noticed some nodding tentatively, while others remained stone-faced, still marinating in their indignation. Enough with the judgment, please, he said. It's time we showed unity instead of discord. This inheritance shouldn't tear us apart. We need to honor Mary's memory. And to do that, we must stand together. An uncomfortable silence blanketed the room. Tom's heart hammered against his ribs, uncertainty clinging to him like winter chill. Could he really unite them? Just then, Sarah rose, her voice small but steady. I don't want this inheritance to create more pain. I want to take anything that leads to division. A ripple of surprise coursed through the room. Tom's throat tightened. He had thought they were on the brink of something beautiful, only to have it slip from his fingers. He caught the glimmer in Sarah's eyes, a courage he had never seen before. If she could stand up, perhaps others could too. Let us take this one step at a time, he suggested, feeling cautiously optimistic. Let us remember the love Mary left behind. We need to talk openly. I don't want my grief to prolong the fracture she wouldn't have wanted. The room began to murmur, hearts softening. But was it enough? As the conversation started again, voices less hostile but still tentative, Tom felt the pull of hope wrestle with doubt. Could they navigate these murky waters of grief and resentment together? He glanced at Sarah, who managed a small, hesitant smile. Maybe, just maybe, he could forge a new path forward. But one question loomed larger than their fears. What if the past wasn't finished with them yet? The fading light filtered through the window, casting long shadows across the room. The air felt a little lighter, but a heaviness remained. Tom watched as conversations bubbled beneath the surface, whispers flowing like currents, hesitant yet alive with possibility. Sarah sat down, her features marked by a tentative but resolute calm. The tension was still palpable, but she had offered a voice of reason that somehow untangled some of the tight knots in the room. Her courage had sparked a small flame of hope that flickered against the dark clouds of grief lingering in everyone's hearts. Can we at least agree to pause? A distant uncle finally said, his voice breaking the uneasy silence. He wasn't too much for confrontation, but even he could see the need for clarity amid the emotion. I think that's wise, Tom replied, appreciating the man's attempt to ease the ordeal. Whatever comes next, we need to breathe, to think. Some nodded slowly, relief washing over them. Tom felt the tension start to shift, albeit slightly. The stakes of this meeting were too high to let it all spiral out into more accusations. This was about Mary, a person they all loved in their own way. As moments stretched on and the mood softened, Tom took a step back to gather his thoughts. He considered Sarah, her head downcast, as if she were bracing for more. He couldn't help but feel a sense of protectiveness toward her. She had been a beacon of strength, yet here she was, appearing fragile amongst a sea of uncertainty. I know this isn't easy for anyone, Tom said, breaking the silence again. But Mary wouldn't want us blaming each other. She taught us to lean on one another to share burdens. His words had a ripple effect. A few more heads nodded, the fierce tension morphing into something resembling understanding. Maybe we could share stories about her, suggested Sarah softly, her fingers nervously entwining. Good memories. I think that might help us connect, to remind us of the love we had for her. Tom saw smiles break like dawn on some faces, while a few hesitated, grappling with their emotions. Mary had knit them together with her kindness. Recalling those moments might be a bridge they just needed someone to lead the way across. "All right," Tom said with a resolute nod. "Let us do it. Share a memory, any memory. It'll remind us of the bonds we formed, and perhaps reignite a sense of family that we can carry forward." One by one, hesitant voices began to share. Memories poured out of the shadows, Mary's unyielding humor during tough times, how she always prepared their favorite meals, and her infectious laughter. Each story sparked something in each person. The coldness of the earlier atmosphere began to melt. Tom felt the burden of grief lift just a little as he recalled his own cherished moments with Mary, her wisdom, her light, and was surprised to find his eyes growing damp. It wasn't an easy exercise, but it felt necessary. Then an emotional wave struck him when he heard Sarah's name mentioned. "Do you remember when Sarah brought those cookies to the family gathering?" One distant cousin laughed, and half of them ended up on the floor. Laughter erupted around the room, filling the void that had threatened to swallow them whole. In that moment, Tom could almost hear Mary's laughter echoing too. But just as the warmth spread, Tom's phone buzzed on the table, an unexpected intruder in their evolving narrative. It was a text message from Sarah, a message that sent shivers up his spine. "Tom, there's something you need to know." The room quieted, all eyes on him. What could it be? The fragile piece could slip away at any second. How could he shield them from whatever storm was on the horizon? As he read her words, dread settled like a stone in his stomach. What if Sarah now held the key to unearthing an entirely different legacy? "Tom?" Sarah leaned in, concern knitting her brow. "What is it?" He hesitated, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. How could he break the news? As he looked around, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever lay within that message could change. Everything. Could they handle that? Could he? What she didn't expect, he murmured to himself, feeling a knot of worry tightening. What haven we all prepared for? The air hung between them, heavy with unanswered questions. Tom tried to shake the dread that clutched at his heart. He could feel the eyes of his family like arrows, piercing through the moment, waiting, hoping for salvation, but fearing the worst. What lay behind Sarah's message? He swallowed hard, looking back and forth between Sarah and the rest of the family. Her expression was tight, but there was also a flicker of determination in her eyes. She intended to share something? Something important. Everyone, he finally said, feeling the pounding of his heart loud in his ears. "Sarah has something to tell us. Something that might change things." Anxiety rippled through the room, shifting the atmosphere once more. Like a pendulum, it swung back to strain, anticipation thickening the air. Sarah drew in a breath, steadying herself as she spoke, the tremor in her voice cutting through the silence. "Tom, I found some papers in Mary's things," she began, her voice trembling slightly. They weren't just old letters or photographs. They were legal documents that I think are relevant to her estate and to us. The quiet gasp from the others echoed Tom's own fear. What kind of secrets did Mary keep? Mary made some arrangements. That Sarah hesitated, her words clearly weighing heavily on her. "That might affect how we move forward. Does it have to do with the house?" Tom asked, his mind racing. "Or is there something more?" She slowly nodded. "It's more than just the house." "What do you mean?" Someone asked from the back, a cousin whose voice broke the tension but didn't lighten the mood. Mary had been working on a project, a foundation. Actually, she was planning to start a charity to support families in need, Sarah continued. She wanted all of us to be involved, to create a legacy together that could help others. But there are details we need to consider and decisions to make. The words hung there, a mixture of inspiration and pressure. Tom's heart swelled with pride as he thought of Mary's big dreams. It was quickly replaced with concern. Did they have what it took to carry forth such a heavy mantle? But before he could respond, Sarah pressed on. There's more. The foundation's initial funding came from a trust that got larger than she ever anticipated, and there are stipulations attached. She was counting on us, but it means we'll need to work together. There are conditions. Tom's brow furrowed, processing the gravity of what he was hearing. It was overwhelming. If they pulled together, united by their grief and love for Mary, could they accomplish it? Or would their differences tear them apart at a moment when they needed each other most? But what if we can't agree? One relative asked timidly. What if he knew that voice? It was one of the quieter members of the family. What if we all want different things? Tom felt the tension snapping back into place, a taut rope ready to fray. Sarah's eyes glimmered with desperation, her fingers clenched in anticipation of their reaction. If we allow fear or anger to dictate our choices, we might lose everything, Sarah said, her voice rising with urgency. We have to discuss this, not just for ourselves, but for Mary's legacy. A foundation for families in need. That's what she would have wanted. Tom's heart raced as he glanced around the room. Faces flickered from worry to contemplation. True, Mary would want them united, but the fight for her vision now loomed large before them. And with it, a question hung like an unresolved note. Could they come together under the weight of expectation, or would the cracks they carried threaten yet another loss? Are we ready for that? He asked softly, a question directed to no one. Yet everyone could feel its weight. After a tense silence, the room filled not with answers but a storm of uncertainty, setting the stage for an unimaginable confrontation ahead. What had started as a moment for remembrance was now threatening to unravel. What would it take to bind them together and truly honor Mary's dream? The tension coiled tighter like a spring, each face reflecting a cocktail of confusion and fear. Tom felt his pulse quicken. Sarah's revelation hung like a dense fog over them, obscuring their vision of the future. Okay, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Let us talk about these stipulations. What's on those papers? What does Mary want us to do? Sarah grasped the edges of the coffee table, her knuckles white. She wrote about forming a board for the foundation and that we would each play a role. It's clear that she wanted us to be equal partners in this. The idea of partnership felt daunting. It implied deep connections where there had been frayed wires. Tom glanced at his siblings. Some looked wary, others appeared deep in thought. His older brother, Michael, shifted uncomfortably. What if one of us doesn't want to be involved? Or disagrees with how things should go? What happens to the money? Someone added, as if the fiscal aspect glinted like a sword unsheathed in the dim light. The conversation was spiraling into confusion that could devolve into chaos quickly. That's the point, Sarah interjected, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. The foundation is meant to help families in need. If one of us steps back, it could jeopardize everything Mary wanted to accomplish. She believed in this. She put in time, passion, and hope. What if Mary's vision isn't what we all want? Michael's voice held a trace of resentment. Let's be honest. None of us have the same dreams she had. Tom felt a wave of frustration surge through him. But what about her legacy? We owe it to her to at least try. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, but dissent was also palpable. It was one thing to support Mary's dreams, but could they stand together when each carried their own agendas and wounds? Would they be strong enough to hold her vision aloft? I can't believe she didn't discuss this with us, a cousin muttered, shaking their head. If all of this was so important, why were we left in the dark? The dark clouds of accusation were beginning to gather. Eyes turned towards Sarah, as if she were holding the weight of those decisions alone. No one was left in the dark. She raised her voice, shifting the focus from herself. Mary felt that we would be receptive when the time came, that we could put aside our differences. This is what she wanted to bridge our gaps. A heavy silence engulfed them again. Thomas' mind spun. Could they truly bridge anything? He wanted to fight for this foundation, for Mary's vision, but fear crept in, threatening to drown his hope. What would happen if they failed? Maybe we should look at those papers together, he suggested hesitantly, his heart pounding. If this is about sharing her legacy and vision, maybe we could find a path forward. Sarah nodded, relief sweeping across her face. Exactly. We can face the details together. We need to give this the chance it deserves. But as they began discussing the logistics, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that the past was looming like an uninvited ghost, ready to stir old grudges and long-held animosities. How could they change if they weren't willing to acknowledge their scars? Are we truly ready to discuss this openly? Tom asked, pulling them back from the brink of easily broken unity. What if the sacrifices we'll have to make don't feel fair? Can we handle the truth of our bonds? Those questions hung in the air, aching and unresolved. As the discussions continued, the stakes felt higher. Each word could either build bridges or ignite a firestorm. Tom took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. They all wanted Mary's dream to live, but were they prepared to risk everything in pursuit of it? The path that lay ahead was tangled, but there was a flicker of light through the shadows. Yet in this tenebrous atmosphere, one thing remained clear. The journey toward understanding would be messy. What revelations awaited them as they plumbed the depths of Mary's intentions, and would they discover truths that could either elevate them to new heights or pull them into a darker abyss? Tom took a steadying breath, trying to anchor himself to the present as uncertainty warred within him. The air buzzed with a muted energy, a mix of anxious glances and unvoiced thoughts. It felt like they were standing on the edge of something monumental, though no one had found the courage to leap. "Let us just open the papers," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the tension. She reached for the envelope left on the table, but hesitation gripped the room. The paper felt weighty, heavy with the dreams and burdens that Mary had entrusted to them. Each sibling seemed to grapple with their own demons, a mixture of love and resentment creating a swirling storm of doubt. Michael crossed his arms, a defensive posture that spoke volumes. "I just don't want this to turn into another family fight." "We can do this," Sarah replied, her tone deceptively calm, masking the apprehension lacing her words. Tom watched her, the spark in her eyes competing with the weary shadows underneath. He knew she believed they could make it work, but could they truly set aside their differences? Did they even know how? Last holidays came to blame and name-calling old wounds that still throbbed. "Fine," Michael finally said, "but if we're doing this, we need to set some ground rules. No accusations, no blaming. We talk, we listen, and we respect each other." Agreement sparked a flicker of hope in Tom. This was a start of fragile connection might be possible. "Okay, let us hear what Mary envisioned." With a trembling hand, Sarah slid the first page from the envelope. "She wants each of us to take responsibility for different aspects of the foundation. We each have a role to fill," as she read through the stipulations and purpose. Tom felt himself relax just a little. Mary's vision was noble, aimed at helping families like theirs in times of need. Yet, as Sarah's voices faded in and out, he couldn't help but sense the weight of expectations hanging over them. "Can we even agree on the mission statement?" A cousin blurted out, her tone skeptical. "We hardly agree on anything else." The doubts smothered the burgeoning optimism. Tom's heart began to race again. Everyone's opinions and egos were at stake. But that when he realized this moment wasn't just about the foundation. It was about healing and choosing to come together or remain fractured. Something Mary started was hope, he declared, a fierce intensity rising within him. If we're really doing this, we need to honor her spirit, the dreams she believed in. We have to want this for her. Voices began rising and falling like a tide. Some seemed hesitant, still clinging to their doubts. But others, emboldened by Tom's words, expressed a willingness to engage. "I didn't know how much she wanted us united," Michael reluctantly admitted. "It changes things. I guess I can at least give it a shot." As the conversation continued, it felt like gaps were starting to close just a little. They were facing each other, the walls thinning, though none dared to expect everything would be easy. Yet hope flickered, a shared commitment could perhaps fortify their bonds. Then came the moment that turned everything sideways. Sarah's voice drifted again through the hubbub, unearthing a buried truth. "There's more to this." She spoke about an advisory board, but she also mentioned something about her past. The air grew tense as silence swept in. Every sibling turned to look at Sarah, their expressions caught between surprise and fear. What did Mary know that could turn this from an opportunity into a risk? Tom felt his pulse hammering in his chest. This conversation was just beginning, and it was about to get much more complicated. What secrets from their past might be lurking, waiting to redefine their relationships yet again? Sarah, what do you mean by something about our past? Tom's voice broke through the charged silence. His heart thudded loudly in his chest, anticipation and worry mingling as he awaited her response. Sarah hesitated, her eyes darting from face to face, feeling the weight of all those years and secrets. I didn't know if I should say anything. Mary mentioned that our family had to confront old grievances before we could move forward. She said this foundation, it was not just about charity. It was about healing. The tension in the room thickened. Angry whispers dripped from Michael's lips. What grievances? We're not a bunch of kids anymore. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration palpable. Maybe that's the point, Sarah replied defensively, her voice rising. We're not kids, but we haven't healed from everything that happened. Tom stepped in. What did she mean by old grievances? Is there something we've all forgotten? Something we need to talk about? The conversation began unraveling at the seams. Siblings turned away from each other, lost in their own memories. Bitterness flared behind tired eyes. Tom felt the gnawing pressure building in his chest. Did they really need to dig up the past? He believed in Mary's vision of hope, yet the thought of reliving hurt felt unbearable. I remember the day Dad left. Their cousin Clara spoke up, her voice cutting through the unresolved tension. It broke us apart. We never talked about it. We just moved on like nothing happened. Please, not that again, Michael muttered, his frustration bubbling to the surface. That was years ago. Why dredge it up? Silence fell once more, leaving only the sound of heavy breathing. Tom didn't need to look up to know that the air was thick with unresolved pain. Tension wrapped around them like a rope. Maybe facing it is the only way we can make sense of all this, Tom said, feeling the urgency swell within him. Mary's goal wasn't just to create a foundation, it was to give us a way back to each other. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Do we even know how to do that? The rawness of her emotion hit Tom harder than he expected. He remembered their family at its best, a tight-knit unit, laughing together, sharing dreams. But those days felt like echoes now, overshadowed by that day in the past, when everything changed. Michael looked around at his siblings, and then back to Tom. Okay, let us just say we dig it up. How do we even start? Tom felt his throat tighten. We start by listening. We can't fix what's broken if we're too afraid to confront it. It's not just about the money or the foundation. It's about us. We owe Mary that much. One by one, the group began to lean in, more curious than resistant. They drew closer, almost unconsciously bridging the distance that had formed between them. They sensed the potential healing in the air, a fragile thread reconnecting them. As they began to share their buried feelings and fragmented memories, old wounds surfaced. Voices trembled, laughter mixed with tears, and for a moment, there was a unity that felt both foreign and familiar. But as they spoke, something changed within the dynamic. Shadows crept in and out, revealing past offenses, old rivalries, and unspoken grievances all tangled together. The emotional cacophony began to take on a life of its own, driving the siblings to a conversation far deeper than they'd anticipated. Then, just as things seemed to gather momentum, the ache of silence returned. There was something lingering just beneath the surface, something bigger than the broken family ties, something that jolted Tom back to the envelope calling out from the table. What was the last thing Mary wrote? He murmured, feeling as if they were inches away from unraveling not just their relationship, but the dynamics of their whole family history. With a shaky breath, Sarah reached for the envelope once more, flipping it over nervously. There's one more letter in here, it's addressed to me. Instantly, every eye focused on her, hope entwined with apprehension. The air crackled with tension as they awaited the revelation that could either seal their fates together or tear them apart once more. Would this be the truth they desperately needed, or another cut deeper than they'd known? Sarah's fingers trembled as she carefully opened the envelope, the paper delicate and worn, like the memories they had tried so hard to forget. The murmurs subsided, and the air grew thick with anticipation, a collective heartbeat echoing in the room as they waited for her to read the words. Clearing her throat, Sarah began, her voice wavering slightly. Dear Sarah, if you're reading this, it means I'm not there with you. I wanted to tell you something important. Her eyes flicked up momentarily, meeting Tom's steady gaze before returning to the page. As a family, we've endured so much pain and silence. I can't change the past, but I wish for you all to find peace. There are secrets I kept to protect you, but holding them back has only caused more wounds. Tom felt his heart race. What secrets could those be? He braced himself for the possibilities. Sarah continued, her voice stronger now. Each one of us has our own struggles, our own battles. Those of you who remember, the day your father left was not just a day of loss. It was a series of choices made in fear and desperation. Choices that, unknowingly, set you on paths of anger, bitterness, and mistrust. The words hung in the air, the weight of them anchoring them to the moment. Clara let out a soft gasp, her hand covering her mouth as she connected the dots. What is she saying? She whispered. She's giving us a chance to understand, Tom replied, his own voice tight with emotion. To confront what we've avoided for so long. Mary believed we could heal together, Sarah said, regaining her composure. She wanted us to know that love can flourish even in brokenness. That's why she founded the foundation to do what she couldn't when she was with us. Love? Michael scoffed, but the disbelief in his tone was already fading. What does that even mean? Love doesn't replace the pain we've experienced. No, it doesn't, Sarah replied with heat, surprising herself. But maybe it's the way forward. Maybe she knew that love is bigger than our grievances and can help us face them if we're willing. Silence enveloped them again, yet it felt different this time. Instead of tension, there was a growing sense of understanding. They glanced at one another, searching each other's eyes for shared recognition. And there's more, Sarah said, flipping the letter over. Mary mentioned specific memories. A family dinner at the lake, Christmases when we couldn't stop laughing, the summer after Dad left, things that seem so trivial now, but made us who we are. Why bring up those memories? Clara asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. What is the purpose? To remind us, Tom interjected, feeling a spark of clarity. We can't rush to fix what's broken without remembering what brought us joy in the first place. Those memories are important too. They hold the key to understanding. As Sarah continued reading, the room became enveloped in their shared past. Tears pooled in their eyes. Laughter erupted at old tales, and slowly, the cracks between them began to mend. Just as they thought they found a rhythm in that deep connection, Sarah came to the final line, a knot forming in her throat. And remember, there's always hope hidden behind the truths we're scared to confront. Her voice tapered off, and an odd stillness settled. What hope? Michael finally broke the silence. What is she hinting at? Tom's breath caught. Whatever it is, we need to figure out. Maybe it's not just about the past, it's about moving forward together. The question hung heavy in the air, the silence stretching with the weight of their uncertainty. What lay inside the depths of those memories? What pieces remained to be uncovered? With a steady but shaky resolve, Tom looked at his siblings. Let us honor Mary's wishes. Let us face the truth of our family. Together. At that moment, a sudden sound broke through the fragile atmosphere. A phone rang sharply from the corner of the room, pulling them back to reality. Unbeknownst to them, that call would bring revelations they hadn't anticipated, changing everything yet again. The ringing persisted, slicing through the heavy silence like a knife. With a deep breath, Sarah picked up the phone. Her hands were still trembling, the emotional weight of the letter still heavy in the air. Hello, she answered, her voice wavering slightly. On the other end, a gravelly voice spoke. Is this Sarah? This is Detective Collins. I'm afraid I have some urgent news regarding your Mother S. Foundation. At the mention of Mary S. Foundation, the room tightened, a wave of tension washing over them. Sarah's heart raced as she felt her siblings lean closer, listening intently, their eyes wide with worry. What kind of news? She managed to ask, already dreading the answer. Your mother had been involved in some matters before she passed, concerning some fund mismanagement and potential threats to her safety. We're looking into these incidents now, and we found something that may relate to her and your family. Clara's hands flew to her face, while Michael's expression hardened. What do you mean? What happened to her? He chimed in, his voice tight with concern. There's an old case that may connect to her. Some files were discovered, charts, reports, and a name that keeps coming up, Nathaniel Gray. It seems your mother was digging into his affairs in recent months. Sarah gulped, her mind racing. Nathaniel Gray. The name felt like a punch to the gut. She remembered snippets of heated conversations between her mother and her uncle, arguments just below the surface, all around the family gatherings. What does he have to do with anything? She asked, her voice strained, a knot forming in her stomach. We believe there's more to uncover secrets your mother may have stumbled upon in her quest for the Foundation's integrity. If she was threatened in any way, you need to know. Tom stepped forward, his protective instinct kicking in. What do we do? He asked, the gravity of their mother's involvement washing over him. We can't just sit here. First, make sure you're safe. We'll send someone over for protection. And I suggest you gather everything your mother had on this situation. Family matters can turn dangerous quickly. As the call ended, Sarah lowered the phone, her heart pounding wildly. What was she involved in? She whispered, her gaze shifting to her brothers and sisters. They were all staring at her, faces pale and stricken. Michael clenched his fists. This isn't just about our past anymore. It looks like there are real dangers hiding in the midst of all those memories. Tears stung Sarah's eyes as she thought about their mother, fragile yet resilient. What if she really was trying to protect us? She felt a mixture of comfort and confusion wash over her. Uncertainty filled the room. They were all looking for answers. The letter had opened a door, revealing cracks of emotional healing. But now it seemed to lead to a sinister companion lurking in the shadows. Let us dig into whatever she left behind, Tom said, determination etched on his face. We can't let her legacy remain buried under fear. I'll check the old files of the Foundation, Clara offered. There might be something that tells us where she was headed. While we're at it, we need to learn who Nathaniel Gray really is, Michael added, a fire of resolve gleaming in his eyes. I want to know what kind of danger our family is facing. As they moved towards the past, the shadows deepened, and a sense of urgency filled the air. The legacy of love, healing, and hope now faced an unsettling truth that threatened to tear at the fabric of their family once again. But who was this Nathaniel Gray? And why had their mother been so determined to uncover his secrets? This journey was just beginning, and each step forward would uncover layers they might not be prepared to face. The atmosphere in the room shifted as each family member processed the gravity of the detective's call. Sarah clutched the phone tightly, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She could see trepidation flickering across her siblings' faces, fear mingled with determination. Michael broke the silence. If Mom was investigating Gray, then she wasn't just planning that foundation to help families. She was trying to protect us from something or someone. His eyes were intense and hard. The boy who once ran to their mother's arms, now a man willing to fight for the truth. We need to honor Mary's hard work, Tom said, his voice firm. Our foundation should not only be about charity. It's about safety, too. We need to find out what she knew. He glanced around at each member of his family. They were all caught up in their grief, but now there was a new purpose tugging at them, a shared mission. Let us see what we can unearth together, Sarah said, fingers still trembling but a newfound resolve in her chest. Mary believed in us. She wanted us united, and maybe this is a chance to stand together, not just for her legacy, but also for our safety. Then let us do it, Clara finally spoke, her voice steady with a hidden strength. Let us gather everything we have about Nathaniel Gray and our mother's findings. We may find more than just a shadow of fear. We may find the strength to face it. Together, the family shifted into action. Sarah and Clara decided to scour through the old files at the Foundation's office. Tom and Michael commandeered their childhood home's attic and any nook that Mary may have used for her secret investigations. Each sibling's heart raced with a mix of excitement and dread. Hours passed, and what began as hesitation morphed into a shared sense of urgency. The atmosphere was electric, like a storm about to break. The past began to reveal its secrets: old letters, faded photographs, and an envelope marked for my family, poking out from under a dusty box. In the office, Sarah unearthed a handwritten note from Mary detailing her fears about an investor known for predatory behavior, a name that came up in conversation with Nathaniel Gray. "We have to keep pushing forward," she urged as she carefully placed the paper in front of Clara. "We have to understand what Mom might be seeing in him." Meanwhile, upstairs, Tom uncovered a long-hidden family photo taken years ago at a family reunion. Mary beamed in the foreground, but something else caught his eye. A shadowy figure loomed in the background, someone who didn't belong. The tension rose. It felt like a clue hidden in plain sight. "What if he has been stalking us?" Tom whispered, adrenaline coursing through him. "I think this is more than just about family drama," Michael said, flipping through more documents revealing previous business connections between Mary and Gray. "This looks shady. She might have been in over her head." As the discoveries multiplied, they began to connect the dots. Tom spoke up, the weight of the moment visible in his eyes. "This is our moment to be a family. Our mother poured her heart and soul into protecting us. We owe it to her to face whatever danger is lurking." Sarah nodded, tears brimming her eyes, but this time from determination. "She saw a future for us, even when it looked dark," she said passionately, "and now we have to carry that vision through. We can't let fear divide us. We need each other now more than ever." The atmosphere in the room shifted yet again, a tangible bond weaving through them, a shared resolve to uncover the truth. With every piece of evidence they gathered, they not only unraveled the mystery of Nathaniel Gray, but also began healing the wounds of their past. As they worked into the night, the flickering lights illuminated their faces, revealing smiles amidst the lingering heaviness in their hearts. It was a sense of togetherness that had long been buried, waiting for the right catalyst to ignite it. After hours of sifting through the documents, they paused to catch their breath. Tom, exhausted yet filled with newfound love for his family, spoke. "Whatever comes next, remember, we're stronger together. We face this head-on, like Mom would have wanted." Tears rolled down Sarah's cheeks, but they sparkled with a sense of belonging and hope, a promise that together they could honor their mother's memory and create the legacy she had envisioned. In that moment, nestled in the warmth of the flickering light, they found something greater than fear. They found one another. They found home. And as they prepared to confront Nathaniel Gray and whatever revelations lay ahead, they stepped forth united, not just as a family burdened by grief, but as warriors ready to reclaim their past, create a future, and protect what their mother held dear. In that fragile, yet powerful silence, they knew they were on the brink of something beautiful, a transformation steeped in love, courage, and resilience, a foundation of their own making, built on trust and unwavering spirit. Now that the tides were turning, they had one last chance to honor Mary's vision, but they also needed their audience to join them. So, if you felt moved by their transformation, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment below with your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the power of family and unity. Let us spread this energy and honor the legacies we build together.